Very good morning to everyone. So today I'll be doing the Hindu analysis of 2nd of November. Okay, so this is there in the front page. I have shared the screen with you. It says that UPSC tightens rules for appointment of state police chiefs. Now only police officers with at least 6 months of service left. Just a second. Okay. So only police officers with at least 6 months of service left before retirement will be considered for appointment as Director General of Police of a state. The Union Public Service Commission said in amended guidelines issued last month. That means all those police officers, um, just a second. So all those police officers with at least 6 months of service. That means at least 6 months of service left before retirement will be considered for DGP appointment as DGP of a state. Fine. In another change, the empanelment committee constituted by UPSC will not access or assess the IPS officers on central deputation for a state DGP's post if Union Ministry of Home Affairs says that it will not be possible to release the officers. So the next thing, what they said was that the empanelment committee, and this empanelment committee was constituted by UPSC, and this committee says what, that this will not assess the IPS officers on central deputation. For what? For state DGP's post. And why? Until and unless the Union Ministry of Home Affairs, yani MHA, informs the state government what will they inform the state government, that it will not be possible to relieve the officers. This is what the article was saying. Senior government officials say the amendments make explicit what have been considered what as the underwritten norms. Even as some states have appointed DGPs on the verge of retirement, and many states have appointed acting DGPs to avoid due process. Now, what are the issues? Favorite officers? A government source said the guidelines were revised to discourage states from appointing favorite officers about to retire in a bid to extend their tenure. The guidelines, which were amended on September 22 and sent to states on September 26, also allow officers with 25 years of experience to be appointed as a DGP. And this is against the earlier requirement of a minimum 30 year of service. The number of shortlisted officers, they cannot exceed three, but may consist of less than three officers in exceptional circumstances. Now, officers will not be included in the panel unless they themselves are willing. The guidelines added. And what is the bypassing process? The amended UPSC guidelines come in the wake of several states, including the BJP ruled states, choosing to appoint acting DGPs instead of regular DGPs, bypassing the requirement to go through the UPSC selected panel of eligible officers. States such as Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Andhra Pradesh, and Telangana have all appointed the in charge DGPs or DGPs with full additional charge. In fact, Uttar Pradesh has not had a full-time DGP since 2022. Former Punjab DGP has moved the Central Administrative Tribunal against the appointment of the respective person as acting DGP by the uh, government of the northern state, that is Delhi. Now, what is the guidelines? So, the guidelines also reduce the minimum age requirement or the minimum experience requirement from what 30 to 25 years. Right. So the number of shortlisted officers cannot exceed three. That means the shortlisted officers, this shall not exceed three, but it might consist of less than three officers. So it should not exceed three. That means it shouldn't be greater than three. It might be less than three. In which situation? In exceptional circumstances. And officers will not be included in the panel unless they are willing to. So all those officers who are not willing to join the panel will not be included. Now, what is all issue behind? See, what has happened is that several states had been choosing to appoint acting DGP instead of regular DGPs. So, bypassing what? Now, they have been choosing what? To appoint acting DGP. Now, acting DGP and instead of regular DGP. Now, what is the preference of the states? The preference is this. And what happens if they are going to go for acting DGPs? Now, when they are going for acting DGPs, that if they want acting DGPs instead of the regular DGPs, now what will they do is that the requirement, or if they are going for the acting DGP, they are going to bypass what? They are going to bypass the recruitment process, or you can say the requirement of what? To go through the UPSC selected panel. So what is going to happen if the state is going for regular DGP, they have to go with the UPSC selected panel to have an eligible officer. Fine. But what is happening is that instead of this, the state is going for the acting DGP. So when they are going for acting DGP, they can skip this process. And how do you know that the states have been going for this acting DGP process? So there are states like UP, Punjab, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana. All these states have done what they have all appointed in charge DGPs. Now, when they have appointed this in charge DGPs, or you can say DGPs with full additional charges. Now, what is so surprising? Now, you won't believe what that UP has never had a full time DGP since 2022, like for past 1 years. So what happened was that during this year in June, Punjab has passed a legislation for what? To independently appoint the state DGP. Fine. And why? Because they wanted to circumvent the UPSC's empanelment process. Now, when Punjab Police Amendment Bill was there in 2023, now under this, what is being said is that the police is a state subject. So what is happening is the IPS officers. Now all those IPS officers who are constituents of. So they like who are the constituents of all India services are appointed by the UPSC for like forward on the behalf of the union governments, and their services are placed under state cadres. So all of them, like all this is known by everyone that these IPS officers now they are constituents of all India services. Now when they are appointed, and these IPS officers are appointed in the state cadre, and who is the one who is appointing these IPS officers coming in the Constitution of All India Services in the state cadre is by or on the behalf of the. Move on to the next article. Okay. So coming to page number 5, we have got this on your screen that is Kerala village bets big on mushroom coffee brand. Now what's that? So let's do this analysis. Now, entering a niche market is no easy task, especially when you are operating from rural Thalabu. But that did not stop Lalu Thomas from launching Labe, perhaps the first mushroom coffee brand. Again, very important. What they are saying is that the person has launched what? Labe. What is Labe? It is the first coffee brand. First coffee brand from Kerala developed with the support of the Krishi Vigyan team. So this coffee brand is coming from Kerala and this has been developed in support with the Krishi Vigyan team. Now, though the product has been introduced in export and online markets without any airtight business plan, its monthly turnover has crossed 1 lakh in a couple of months. So, monthly turnover, monthly turnover has crossed 1 lakh. In a month. Fine. Now the success of the small business has prompted the Thalabur Panchayat to come up with Poon Gramam, a project to extend mushroom cultivation in the area. So what is it is Poon Gramam. Poon Gramam, and it is a project to extend mushroom cultivation in the area. So this project is known as Poon Gramam for what? Just a minute. So okay, Poon Gramam, the project. And this project is to extend what? Mushroom cultivation in the area. Now, the local body has started training around 100 farmers to cultivate mushroom that will be procured from the production of larvae. Now, we have set aside funds for the project, and most of our beneficiaries are women. So, through this project, larvae, that is the first coffee brand, who is the primary beneficiary, or so the maximum beneficiaries are coming from. Maximum beneficiaries are mushroom cultivation is easier compared with other crops, and through this project, we aim to attain what self sufficiency in the production. So, this project's off for around 5 varieties, that is button, oyster, milky, lion's mane, and turkey tail, are used for manufacturing mushroom coffee along with organic Arabica coffee bean from Wayanad. So, what are the 5 varieties that are used for manufacturing mushroom coffee? Is your button, one second. 5 varieties for what? For manufacturing of mushroom coffee. What are those? One is your button, another one is your oyster, next one is your milky, lion's mane, and turkey tail. Button, oyster, milky, lion's mane, turkey tail are used for manufacturing of mushroom coffee along with organica, organic arabica coffee, along with organic arabica coffee. Now, since it's an organic product rich in antioxidants, our customers are people who want to increase diet quality and stay healthy. While similar products available in the market use one or two mushrooms only, Lave blends different varieties handpicked for their distinctive health benefits. Now, this is Lave. Then they say lion's mane is a cognitive enhancer. Sun-dried oyster mushroom contains a lot of vitamin D. Turkey tail is good for bone health. So if you see, all in all, they are talking about there's a lot of health benefits associated with them. The produce from his farm is not sufficient for the required volume of coffee powder, and often the raw material is sourced from other parts. Now, lion's mane and turkey tail are not cultivated here as we need to maintain lower temperature in the farm. So, for lion's mane and turkey tail, for these two, require a lower temperature in the farms. But now we are trying to produce them locally, and the farmers will be trained in various methods. So, Lave is listed on Amazon. Mr. Farmer says it is the most sought after product in the category. So, we are targeting the export market only initially and are yet to explore the domestic market. The entrepreneurs in the panchayat are also planning to introduce other products, including mushroom chocolate and mushroom cookies. So the two are other projects and the products are mushroom chocolate and mushroom. And these are the two projects that are sought after. Okay, fine. Let's move on to the next article. Impacting a woman's freedom to reproductive choices. Now, the person is practicing in Madras High Court who has written the editorial. So, what is the person's opinion? Now, October 16th, in X versus Union of India, the Supreme Court of India declined the permission to a woman who was seeking to terminate a 26-week long pregnancy. A bench presided over the CJI, TY Chandrachud, held that the women's case fell outside the scope of MPP. So we are considering again what the MPP bill, or you can say the MTP Act of 1971. The court said the statute permitted the termination of pregnancy beyond 24 weeks only in cases where the fetus exhibited substantial abnormality or where the woman's life was under direct threat. So it says that the termination of pregnancy beyond 24 weeks only happens in case if there is a direct threat to the woman's life, and other is in case of substantial abnormality. Now, here since doctors would have to terminate a viable fetus, the court rejected the plea to exercise its extraordinary power. Now, what is viable fetus versus women's right? The judgment falls short of bestowing any explicit right to the unborn, but the upshot of its conclusion is just that when a fetus becomes viable and is capable of surviving outside the mother's uterus, the woman's right to choose stands extinguished, barring circumstances where the specific conditions outlined in the MTP Act are met. That means a viable fetus is one who can now survive outside women's or outside the mother's uterus. In so holding, the judgment suffers from at least two errors. The first stems from the court's failure to ask itself what sought to be seen as central questions to resolving the dispute. Does a fetus enjoy a autonomous moral status? Does it have legal standing? Is it capable of exercising constitutional rights? The judgment does not engage with these questions and as a result places the right of fetus at a pedestal above that of the rights of a pregnant woman to her privacy and dignity. Now, this one. Now, what did the second one says? Second, the court fails to examine whether the MTP Act is merely an enabling legislation. Does the statute facilitate the exercise of a fundamental right, or do its exemptions constitute a conferral of rights in and by themselves? Had these questions been posed and answered, the court may well have considered whether a woman ought to be allowed to terminate her pregnancy outside the terms spelled out in the legislation. So, if the right to freely make reproductive choice is fundamental, flowing from the Constitution, the court ought to scarcely feel injuncted from issuing directions beyond the MTP's Act. Now consider the facts. What are the facts? The petitioner, a 27-year-old woman with two children, the youngest barely a year old, and wants her pregnancy terminated. She became aware of her pregnancy only 20 weeks in, as she had lactational amenorrhea. That means a condition in which women who are breastfeeding have amenorrhea that is not menstruating. So the petitioner submitted before the court that when she ultimately underwent an ultrasound scan, she was found to be 24 weeks pregnant. So that means she was going through this lactational anemia. That is a condition in which women who are breastfeeding have anemia that is not menstruating. So she didn't got to know about her own pregnancy. Now petitioners plea and rulings. X made two chief pleas. One, she submitted that she was suffering from postpartum depression and her mental condition did not allow her to raise another child. And two, her husband, she said, was the only earning member of the family and they couldn't ill afford to care for a third child. At the first instance, on October 9, the court, on examining a report submitted by a medical board constituted by All India Institute of Medical Science to allow the pregnancy to continue, bench. Now, what did they said on the following day? The union government went back to the court and said that one of the members on the medical board had written in asking for a clarification on whether the termination could go ahead given the viable status of the fetus. Now, when the bench reassembled on October 11th, the petitioner remained resolute in her plea, but the two judges found themselves disagreeing with each other. Justice Kohli said her judicial conscience did not allow her to permit an abortion. Justice Nagar held that the petitioner's decision must be respected. The woman's choice, she ruled, was paramount and her right to reproductive health included a right to an abortion. What is more, a fetus, she found, is dependent on the mother and cannot be recognized as an individual personality from that of his mother, as its very existence is owed to the mother. The impasse between the two judges led to the constitution of a separate bench presided over by the CJI. Now, what is a new report from the medical board confirmed that the fetus was viable and had no abnormalities. Given that neither of the exemptions available under MTP Act were met, the court now ruled that it is earlier order had to be recalled. But in ruling this way, the verdict runs toward the court recent jurisprudence on fundamental rights to privacy and dignity. Indeed, it was only the last year in the X versus Government of Delhi that the court, relying on its nine-judge bench ruling, and what was that ruling all about? Swami held that the right to privacy is implicit in Article 21 of the Constitution, enabled individuals to exercise autonomy over their body and mind, and allowed women to complete freedom to make reproductive choices. There, Justice Chandrachud wrote, in case of an unwanted or incidental pregnancy, the burden invariably falls on the pregnant woman, affecting her mental and physical health. Article 21 of the Constitution recognizes and protects the right of a woman to undergo termination of pregnancy if her mental or physical health is at stake. Importantly, it is the woman alone who has the right over her body and is the ultimate decision maker on the question of whether she wants to undergo an abortion or not. Now, the judgment further found that a woman's right to make reproductive choices without undue interferences from the state sprang out of the very idea of human dignity. Now, if this is the correct position of law, surely the MTP Act must be seen as an enabling legislation, not as a law that confers a liberty as much as law that seeks to provide a means to enforcing a fundamental right. Viewed thus, wherever the statute's mandates is found inadequate by a court of law, it would only be imperative that directions are issued to further the exercise of a woman's right to choose. But in the ruling in X versus Union of India case, it fails to do this. What? The right to choose. Now, fetuses and rights. Even more damaging, though, is the judgment's implicit assertion that fetuses have constitutional rights. Our jurisprudence on abortion has been built on a converse premise. The guarantees of Article 14 and 21 of the Constitution, the rights to equal protection and life, are conferred on persons, and the Constitution decidedly does not award personhood to a fetus. So, in this, what you see is that they are talking about the status of personhood to the fetus. As it happens, even the MTP Act makes no such assertion, for if it did, it could not plausibly create an exception from the timelines it stipulates to a case where pregnant women's life is under immediate and direct threat. The Justice Nagaratna held there is no place within our constitutional structure to see a fetus as anything but dependent on the mother. To see it as separate, distinct personality would be tantamount to a conferring set of rights on it that Constitution grants to no other class of person. Such a reading would efface altogether a jurisprudence that grants primacy to a woman's freedom to make reproductive choices, a right that is intrinsic in Article 14 and Article 21 of the Constitution. So, all in all, you see, there is a lot of tussle between the right of the fetus, or you can say the right of the viable fetus. What is a viable fetus definition? The viable fetus is one who is now ready and can survive outside the mother's womb, or you can say outside the mother's uterus. So a lot of the judges have been in favor, others have been not. The woman has given her conditions and as well as the reason behind why she was not able to confer that whether she was going through pregnancy and why why it came to be 26 weeks and not 24 weeks before. So all this has been here. Now let's move on to the next article. AI and the issue of human centricity in copyright law. So again, the author is the associate professor of National Law School, and what is the author of the opinion? So the executive order in the United States issued by the president administration on October 30 on safe, secure, and trustworthy AI illustrates that the changing attitude of global leaders towards AI regulation, implementation, and the use of AI without the necessary safeguards can have enormous implications for the future of humanity, and the changes in regulatory approach are a welcome development. Ownership and enforcement. One of the many areas wherein AI has raised tough question is ownership and enforcement of intellectual property rights. For example, while generative AI tools such as ChatGPT and Midjourney allow people with minimal creative skills to produce what reasonably beautiful outputs with the help of a couple of text prompts, their use has raised a number of copyrights related questions. Now, what is that? These include whether the use of copyrighted materials, including the text, images, as training data infringes the right of millions of authors and artists on the internet. A recent decision of the United States District Court for the District of Columbia in Stephen Thaler versus Sheriff Mutual is a remarkable. Why? Because it provides some insights on whether copyright can exist in work autonomously created by AI. In this case, Mr. Thaler owned an AI system named Creativity Machine, which he claimed that autonomously created a piece of visual art. In his application for copyright registration before the US Copyright Office, Creativity Machine was mentioned as the author of the work. Mr. Thaler also added that the copyright of the work would be transferred to him. The Copyright Office rejected the application on the ground that the submitted work lacked human authorship. His pleas to the office to reconsider its decision were also rejected on the same rationale. He challenged the rejection before the district court subsequently, and the primary legal question before the court was whether a work autonomously generated by an AI system could be copyrightable. After reviewing the related statutory provisions, case laws, and theoretical justifications for copyright protection, the court concluded that human creativity was essential to copyright protection. The court's line of reasoning is in tune with the general position of U.S. Copyright Office. Thus, work created autonomously by an AI system. In a document entitled Copyright Registration Guidance, works containing material generated by AI. This was released in March 2023. The Copyright Office had categorically stated that copyright can protect only material that is the product of human creativity. Fundamentally, that means what they are saying is that copyright can protect material that is human creativity. Fundamentally, the term author used in both the Constitution and the copyright excludes non-humans. That means the author is saying that both your Constitution and the Copyright Act excludes what? Non-humans. The office also clarified that copyright applicants had a duty to disclose the inclusion of AI generated content in any application, followed by detailed guidelines on doing so in registration forms. Recently, it also initiated a public consultation on various copyright related questions that was posed by AI. The case in India. Now compare the US episode with the prevailing situation in India. In 2020, the Indian Copyright Office registered a work of art called Suryast, for which an AI system named Raghav Artificial Intelligence Painting App was listed as a co-author. The Copyright Office had previously rejected an application in which the same system had been listed as the sole author. While India has not effected any legislative changes in the Copyright Act of 1957, the Copyright Office ignored the human authorship requirement in Indian copyright law when granting registration with an AI system as a co-author. When the matter became controversial, the office sent a notice to the human co-author in the application declaring its intent to withdraw the registration. But the data from the Indian Copyright Office website suggests that the work concerned continues to remain registered. The Copyright Office is also yet to articulate what the mandatory disclosure requirements for what on the use of AI or even initiate broader consultations on this important issue. It may also be useful for what? To review the current scenario in the light of the recommendations of the 161 or first report of the department related parliamentary standing committee on commerce. And what is that? Review of the intellectual property right regime in India. The report had suggested reviewing the Copyright Act 1957 and the Patent Act 1970 to incorporate the emerging technologies of AI and AI related inventions in their ambit. A careful reading of the report suggests some of its recommendations aim to relax the standards for securing copyrights and patents, but these recommendations do not appear to be informed by any study of IP related challenges and the need of the AI innovation ecosystem in India. The committee did not consider the potential adverse implications of such an approach for the startup ecosystem in India, which is alarming. The IP rights. What is the IP rights talking about? The IP rights confers monopoly protection, and as any monopoly right can have extensive negative consequences on society, we need to be cautious about extending in a straightforward way. Now, there are certain sort of existing IP protection to AI generated work. Many of the traditional economic arguments, such as the need to incentivize authors, and inventors through copyright or patent do not hold with the autonomous creative outputs of AI system, since machines are not influenced by such incentives. So, in some, policymakers and courts in India also need to assume what a more cautious approach against diluting the human centricity in copyright law. So, what they are saying is that the copyright laws are more so human centric. Fine. Let's move on to the next one. Now, Bangladesh nominee defeats Nepal's in race for WHO regional post. Now, Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's daughter Sama Wazir on Wednesday elected regional director of World Health Organization Southeast Asia region. She defeated Shambhu Acharya, a public health veteran from Nepal, in a vote that was held in the 76th session of the WHO Regional Committee for Southeast Asian region. Now, India and Bangladesh, Bhutan, North Korea, Indonesia, the Maldives, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Timor-Leste, 10 out of 11 member countries took part in the vote. Now, the Myanmar did not send a delegation to the Delhi meeting. The nomination will be submitted, and the newly appointed regional director will take over from the former ones. So, Ms. Wajid, in a statement, said that WHO Southeast Asia region was home to over 2 billion people, more than a quarter of the people of the planet, and that the region represented a diversity with often differences existing within the boundaries of single member states themselves. So we will work forward to promote community-based mental health care services in member countries. So one thing that the WHO's regional director for Southeast Asian region has been talking about this. First is community-based mental health care services. Second is encourage prevention and promotion in mental health. So second is while expanding what efforts to improve mental health in public health had been done. So they are saying what include mental health in public health agenda. Now, reacting to the results, the former director of WHO SEARO said the election demonstrated the collective resolve of member states to move forward with the vision set out. As a former WHO staff, the person said to look forward to a stronger, responsive, responsible WHO working at the global, regional, and country level on the principle of one WHO and more participation of civil society at all stages of WHO work. So, what is the ultimately this article was talking about? Mental health to be included as one of the important in public health. Fine. Okay, let's move on to the next article. The next article is author Nandini Das wins 2023 British Academy Book Prize. Now, Indian author Nandini Das has been named the winner of the 2023 British Academy Book Prize for the Global Cultural Understanding, a leading international non-fiction award with a prize money of this much for her book quoting what India, England, Mughal India and the Origin of Empire, the UK-based academic's debut work described as the true origin story of Britain and India, told through England's first diplomatic mission to the Mughal courts. As a professor in the English faculty at the University of Oxford, the 49-year-old author has sought to present a new perspective on the origins of empire through the story of arrival of first English ambassador in India. And who is that? Sir Thomas in the early Thomas Roy in the early 17th century. By using contemporary sources by Indian and British political figures, officials, and merchants, she has given the story an unparalleled immediacy that brings to life these early encounters and the misunderstanding that sometimes threaten to wreck the whole endeavor. He described how, through her beautiful writing, exceptional research, and the jury was drawn to the contrast between an impoverished, insecure Britain and the flourishing, confident Mughal Empire. So the British Academy Booker Prize, formerly known as the Naif Al Broaden Prize, was established in 2013 to reward and celebrate the best works of non-fiction that demonstrates the rigor. Now, Ms. Das will receive Euro 25,000 for winning the prize, and each of the shortlisted works, including The Black Ghost of Empire, The Long Death of Slavery, and The Failure of Emancipation by the Caribbean born Chris Manjabra, will receive what? Euro 1,000 each. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Kozhikode and Gwalior enters creative cities list. Kozhikode in Kerala and Gwalior in Madhya Pradesh have made it to the prestigious Creative Cities list of UNESCO for contribution in the fields of literature and music, respectively. The announcement was made by UNESCO on its official website, which is designated as World Cities Day. On World Cities Day, 55 cities joined the UNESCO Creative Cities Network, following their designation by UNESCO Director General New cities were acknowledged for their strong commitment to harnessing culture and creativity as part of their development strategies and displaying innovative practices in human centered urban planning. Now, the people of Kozhikode and Gwalior on this remarkable achievement, Prime Minister has congratulated them. The newly designated creative cities are invited to participate in 2024 UCCN, that is your UNESCO Creative Cities Network, annual conference in Braga, Portugal, the UNESCO said. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Politicians and tech leaders gather at UK's AI summit. So here, what you need to do is that the tech leaders, the politicians gathered in the UK's summit to build a framework to mitigate the risk of AI. Now, this is a 2 days event. The declaration affirms the need to address these risks. Now, what is the approach for this? Minister for State's Electronics and Information Technology, they represented the government of India, said the government had maintained that international conversations on AI were extremely important and that the government's view was that the framework for regulating technology should be driven by a coalition of countries and the framework should not be episodic but more sustained. In the last 10-15 years, government have learned that by allowing innovation to outpace regulation, we open ourselves to the toxicity and the misinformation and the weaponization that we see on the internet today. Now, the UK's Prime Minister has wanted this country to take the lead on the AI safety globally. But other governments, the EU, the Biden administration, and the Chinese government are also seeking to shape and lead the process. Um, what are the global frameworks? So China was willing to enhance dialogue and communication in the AI safety with all sides. Sanctions on the transfer of some AI related technologies, such as those constituted by the Biden administration, have frustrated Beijing. The event included a video message from Britain's King Charles III. What have they said? The tech leaders, including the SpaceX founder Elon Musk, were in audience on Wednesday. Several G7 heads of the government and the state, such as France Emmanuel Macron, Germany's Scholz, and Canada's Trudeau, however, are not expected to attend the meet. The next AI safety summit will be hosted by South Korea in 6 months, and a second one 6 months later by France, as Ms. Donald has announced. Okay, so this much was for today. Thank you so much. I shall see you tomorrow.